Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV with my co-host Jeremy Scipio.
What's going on, everybody?
And a very special guest, man. He comes from the bloodline of one of my favorite groups, man. I can say when I feel I need to be creative, when I feel like I'm in an emotional space, whether happy or sad, I go back to Garrett's fathers, along with George Clinton, their work of music, in order to pull myself into a better place. TV with my co-host, but no, man, we got Garrett Shider Jr., man, Starchild Jr. You know what I'm saying? What's up, man?
What's happening, y'all? What's going on?
Thank
y'all for having me.
Oh man, thank you for hopping in, man. I was, it's funny. I kind of felt with this is the first interview that I felt the way I did when I did this festival called Pharcyde Fest. And there's an actor by the name of Slink Johnson. He's a comedic actor. He did Black Jesus and all that kind of stuff. I work with him now. But we were looking for a host to host the festival. And so we partnered with Golden Voice. And so, their people was kind of throwing stuff at me. I really wasn't feeling that. And then, I had some people who I wanted, but then they were like, well, just give us this. And then so I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? I want to do something different. I'm going to reach out to Slink and see if he'd be with it. But I didn't know him from Adam. But I had followed him on Instagram. So I hit him on Instagram. He gave me his email address. I emailed an email address and he agreed to be on the show. So I was like, okay, cool. So the festival, I think, was on a Tuesday. And that Friday, the Friday before, Golden Voice was like, we need to get a drop from all the artists and everything. We need to do a hard push for ticket sales, blah, 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 blah. So it hit me as I was coming home from my warehouse and I stopped to get a pizza. I was like, man, you haven't even talked to Slink, dude. You don't even know if this is Slink. You know what I'm saying? You going back and forth with, I was like, you going back and forth with somebody. You got this man's name on a flyer and you haven't even talked to him. So then I was like, oh man. And I was trying to give him his space. So I was like, well, I didn't ask for his phone number or anything. We just were Instagram and email. Mm-hmm. So I ordered my pizza, then I came outside and then I hit him and I said, can you hook me up with a drop? And by the time my pizza got ready, he did the drop. It wasn't until that moment that I felt in a safe place, like, woo! I might have sent this deposit to somebody that might not be the person who's supposed to get the deposit and all this stuff. But yeah, with you, man, I was like, man, you are as a contemporary artist, through your father's work, of course, and then as I got to know who you were, it was a really pleasurable moment for you to hit me back and to say that you'd be down with coming on to the show, man. And it's a big deal. And I was talking to Garrett when we were off air, and the conversation was kind of like, his father was a great guitar player. He was a great vocalist. He was all that. And I was telling Garrett that it's crazy how, as I've done my research on his music, that his singing as well as his playing the guitar pulls out a lot of the similar emotions that his father's playing did, but they're not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, okay, this is like, in no disrespect, but kind of how like when Old Dirty Bastard Son first came out, and then Old Dirty Bastard Son, his whole thing was like Old Dirty Bastard. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But with Garrett, I looked at his music and I was like, nah, man, this is evolution. This is like not as cliche as saying picking up the torch, but it's just taking what was that and then bringing it to what is this. Mm-hmm. So, man, I just give you all the props in the world, man. It's dope that you're doing your thing.
I really appreciate that for a few reasons. because first and foremost, there is no comparison to the OGs. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing that you have to kind of realize when you step out on a journey like that. You know what I mean? Because you know, like you're supposed to go big. You know, you're supposed to go big, but you got to know. You know, you got to know what you know. You know what I'm saying? And you got to know when to you got to know when to pay homage. You know what I mean? So the whole time that I've been at this, that's all been my mission, was just to pay homage. I never really wanted to be a copycat, which kind of threw people when I stepped out here, started like calling myself Starchild Junior. You know what I'm saying? Even really rubbed some of the OGs wrong when I came out the gate like that. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what they're thinking. Is like, you know, you're not your dad, and why would you try to be like your dad? But what people, I guess, don't really realize is, you know, me and dad really had a different path to get to where we're going. You know what I'm saying? My father's path was the church. That's where he learned.
Wow.
That's where, you know, he you know, that's where he the root of all his talents were sowed in church as a kid. You know, by the time he was 9 years old, you know, he was like the front man and guitarist of my granddad's, you know, band. You know, they were playing behind like the Blind Boys of Alabama and Shirley Caesar and, you know what I mean, people like that. That's what he was doing at 9. You know what I mean? So from that to P-Funk, my path ended up being a different thing, even though he kind of raised me in that and immersed me in that. You know, like I went to like performing arts high school, and you know what I'm saying, I learned like theory and, you know, learned like stage performing and learned like classical voice, you know, stuff like that. And you know, like had I continued on in performing arts high school, I probably would not be funking. I probably would be like singing that, you know, you probably would have to come to some opera to see me sing. That's what they were grooming me for. And I was really good at it. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't end up staying at that school. I ended up back in my neighborhood shortly thereafter. But what the little bit of time that I spent there, it kind of like ignited something in me, you know, because I didn't want to go there. I wanted to play sports and just go to neighborhood school, but I ended up going to this school, and you know, I tried to flub the audition. They took me anyway. They probably knew who my dad was and my mother and everything, so they took me anyway. But when I got in there and started like being exposed to the arts and the theory of it, and the, you know, the side of it that I didn't see with P-Funk, that was kind of a new thing for me, and I excelled at it. So when I found myself finally taking on this mission here, that was the one thing that I said was, I know that I need to be able to carry this legacy, and I need to be able to I need to be able to be I need to be able to equate myself with the sound, but I need to also find a way to have my own individuality within this. And what I started to find as I got on to like recording was all the stuff that I started to learn in like performing arts high school, like all that theory and all that, you know, the concert choir stuff and all that kind of stuff. I found myself applying more of that to what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? As well as remembering and being aware of the things that made P-Funk what it was. So I felt like as I was on this mission, I already kind of knew how to pay homage to the legacy, but then also how to kind of be my own self. And then to even further the point, I end up realizing that I had a whole lot of other spirit animals in me besides just like my dad and P-Funk and my mother. You know what I'm saying? Unbeknownst to me, until I really started getting into doing my own contemporary style soul music and stuff like that, I didn't realize how much I was into people like Jimi Hendrix and Prince and Stevie Wonder and like Freddie Mercury and you know, like Elton John, you know, people I had heard all my life, but had kind of been like, that's not my thing. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, once I matured and decided that I was going to do my own music, I started hearing that stuff a whole different way and started having a whole new respect for it. And I just immersed myself in all that kind of stuff. So when I do my thing, you know, my sound is going to always remind you of the P, because that's what birthed me. You know, that's what's in my blood. You know what I mean? That's my bloodline, you know, but I'm also always trying to channel other folks. I'm trying to channel Jimmy on a song. I'm trying to channel, you know, this person on a song. I'm trying to channel Bobby Womack over here. You know, I want to pay homage to everything that I like now at this point, because at this point I just have fun. Like after I unlocked the door and opened up the door, you know, I just started like having fun, just romping through this room. You know what I mean? Like for the longest time, I tried to deny this. You know, I tried rap. You know what I'm saying? I tried to do everything except for this. My father was trying to, and mother was trying to put a guitar in my hand from the time I was like 4. And I was like, no, I don't want to play guitar. You know, I want to play drums. I want to play sports. I want to do this. I want to do anything except for what y'all do, because that's what y'all do. You know what I mean? Even though deep down inside, I knew that I really wanted to do what they did. So.
Nah, tell me this. So we don't have that many guests that are like removed from hip hop so much, but I feel like hip hop is so huge that everybody's related to it in some way and at some time. When was the first time you heard hip hop?
In United Sound at a P-Funk session. You know what I'm saying? George was rapping before any of these cats was out here doing it. He's the one who inspired these cats, him and James and all of them. You know what I mean? So if you want to be technical, that was the first time I heard hip hop. Now, if you wanted to know the first time that I actually heard what we called hip hop, here's a great story. Here's a great one. I was 9 years old, I think. Actually, I was 8 or 9 years old, right? I was living in Atlanta because that's where I was born. I was in Atlanta, and a friend of my mother and father's who used to stay with us from time to time, his name is Kenny Gambrell, God rest him, right? He got tickets to this rap concert this show that had come to Atlanta, and it was like at the Omni. So it was like one of these big shows with like a bunch of acts on it. I'm 9 now. I had no clue really what this was. You know who the headliners of this thing were? 2 Live Crew. I'm 9 years old.
Good for you.
I'm not exactly. I'm 9 years old in here. I couldn't even see the stage because everybody was standing up. I couldn't even really see unless he picked me up and put me on his shoulders, which he wasn't doing too much because, you know, that I'm sure that wore his shoulder out. But I could just remember standing there, and you know, when I wasn't on his shoulder and could see what was going on, just standing amongst them folks and hearing what was coming off of that stage, hearing some of the stuff that Uncle Luke and it was saying, man. I could just remember at 9 years old being like, what? Like, this is happening? You know what I'm saying? He's up there like, how many of y'all like getting y'all dick sucked? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like 9 years old. I'm standing there like, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know I have no clue what's going on, except this is very raunchy. This is very unlike anything I have ever seen before. And this is the coolest fucking shit ever, bro. It was fucking so dope. It was 2 Live Crew I saw. Queen Latifah was on this thing. Big Daddy Kane was on this thing. I think LL Cool J was on this thing. It was like everybody who was anybody at that time in the 80s was on this thing, man. And I saw them live at 9 years old. Had no clue what I was looking at, but I was blown away. Blown away. Then shortly thereafter, my older brother came down to stay with us from up north, and what had just come out, NWA had just come out. Now I'm like 10, and he used to be playing that, and my mother and father be like, "What the hell is that? Don't you play that shit in my house? We got these young kids in here. Don't you ever play that? You put earphones on when you listen to that." So I could remember plain as day sneaking in his room at night and sitting next to him while he be playing that shit, man. And I would just be sitting like listening to that shit like, hey, the police, like what the, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And he used to listen to like Too Short. Too Short was right in the middle of his bitch. He was right in the middle of that phase. I was, man, young, just like, I can't believe that they're able to do this. This is just so cool. It was just too cool for me, bro. It was too cool.
That's quite a compliment coming from somebody who's been funking since they've been a child. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can see where P-Funk's influence, how about this, bro? You can see where P-Funk is an essential piece of African-American history, bro. If you look at hip hop, because all the roots of hip hop, our music, all the roots of that, and everything else that derived off of hip hop, all of that derived off of James Brown and P-Funk and Sly Stone, those cats. You know what I'm saying? It all derived off of that, from how it looked, you know what I'm saying, with Grandmaster Flash and them, how they used to dress and all, you could see clearly that they were trying to be George Clinton and P-Funk. You could see it clearly. You could see it clearly. They come to our shows anytime we play in New York, and they love P-Funk. You can see it clearly if you look at their shows, who they're trying to be.
How did you feel the first time when you heard Run DMC?
Shit, loved it, man. You loved it. It was man, we loved it. I loved it. I was young. I was, what was that, 83? I was like 5 years old, bro. I was like 5 years old, but I watched MTV, you know what I'm saying? They were all over the radio. And see, at that time I lived in Atlanta, where hip hop had not really caught on yet. So we were just kind of learning about this, and how we were learning about it was like Run DMC being on the radio and being on MTV. You see what I'm saying? So for me at that time, it was like totally this was like some shit I had never ever seen before. You know what I mean? It just blew me away. They were cool, no shoestrings in the Adidas. You know what I'm saying? Like that, just that right there at 5 years old was like, bruh, they don't have shoestrings. What is that about? Like, and everybody is trying to wear Adidas with no shoestrings now. Yeah, this is how we do, huh? It was cool, man. It was the new thing. But I didn't realize what it was. I didn't realize it was the new thing taking hold. It just was like just something that was happening. Because for me, it was P-Funk. That's what I knew.
So how you describe the origins of funk?
The origins of funk, much like the origins of hip hop, is essentially it's our music. It's street music. You know what I'm saying? It's party music. It was all of that. It was that. It was the rebellious music of like my parents' time. You know what I mean? It was the rebellious music. So that's the origins of funk. It's all the same things that went into birthing hip hop. All those same things, the same struggle. You know what I mean? The same need to tell your story the way that you want to tell your story, and not the way that they tell your story. It's all of that. You see what I'm saying? And if you want to be technical about the origins of funk, well, then you're talking about gospel music. You're talking about rock and roll. You're talking about what else you talking about? You're talking about folk music. You know, you're talking about R&B music. You're talking about soul music. You're talking about all these different ingredients rolled into one meal. You know what I'm saying? So that's what funk is. You know, funk is very versatile. It's the freedom to be as versatile as you want to be. You know what I mean? That's what the origins of funk are. The origins of funk are, what is your thing? What do you do? Oh yeah, you play country music? Well, come on over here and play some of this banjo on that thing. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens with that. Okay, you do classical? Well, come over here and play some of that violin and put some of that violin with that banjo and let's see what happens. You know, now play some drums over that. You know what I'm saying? Now you play a bass line over that. You know what I'm saying? What is that you're humming over there? Come here. Hum that right there. You know, that's what funk is. Funk is party music. Funk is unification music. That's the origins of funk, man. Is everybody, you know, everybody not taking themselves too seriously, being able to coexist, you know, people from a whole bunch of different walks of life. You know, this is the music, that music is the universal language of you know, people who are thinking that way, you know, people who are not trying to see race, you know, not trying to see financial, you know, not trying to see class, you know, that kind of stuff that causes the issues that we deal with today. You know, funk is the escape from all of that, which is what rap was for us. That's what hip hop was for our generation. It was the rebellious music. It was how we told our story. You know what I'm saying? It was how we buried our heads in the sand away from the world. You know what I mean? From all the noise and the rigmarole that was going on around us. That was what we did. You know, we embraced and engulfed ourselves in the culture of hip hop. Well, funk was that before hip hop.
Yeah, I'm here on Wikipedia. Not that it's like totally accurate, but they give it to James Brown, and that you use pretty much. It was saying this type of groove and the way he emphasized on the downbeat.
The one,
he's the one. There it is.
So what Wikipedia is trying to explain to you is this. Hold on, I'm gonna have to light up for this.
Get into it. He said, "Let me take my gloves off."
Yeah. All right. So what Wikipedia is trying to explain to you is this: the funk originates from James Brown. James Brown's concept of the one, what you just said, the downbeat. If you remember any of James Brown's music, everything was very syncopated. Just a whole bunch of patterns. Everybody's playing a pattern. All of that is tied together by whatever you're doing, everybody meets up at the one. You know what I'm saying? That's the concept of it. So if I'm the guitarist and I'm going, scan it, one, scan it, scan it. Now the bass player might be over here going, doom, 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 doom. We all meet back at the one. Whatever we're doing over here, we all meet back at the one.
Okay.
That's James Brown. He originated that. He conceptualized that. That was his baby. That was his baby. That was what made him James, right? Bootsy Collins, who was a bass player, who Cincinnati, Ohio, yep, who was a bass player, a young bass player who him and his brother Catfish Collins.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Catfish. They were hired by James Brown to replace one of his first bands that he dogged out, because James was good for dogging his band out. So after he dogged out the one band, he replaced them with the Cincinnati Cats. So that's Bootsy and Catfish, right? Bootsy and Catfish played for James for a couple of years, and then they had to move on. Story has it that they were fired because they tried to get more money, right? So whatever, you know. So now they're floating around, and a friend of theirs, a woman named Malia Franklin, happened to be mutual friends with another guy from Jersey named George Clinton. She met Bootsy, and she said, you know what? You need to meet George Clinton. So she brought them together. They met, they kicked it, and in the midst of them kicking it, George got that concept of the one, James is one, from Bootsy Collins. He explained that to him. He showed that to him. You know, so George Clinton, who at the time was trying to be a doo-wop group, was experimenting with psychedelic funk at the time, folk music. He was kind of everywhere trying to find a sticking point, right? He gets this concept of the one from Bootsy, James Brown's one, which when James played it used to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Used to be that fast, right? Well, George says, okay, I like that. This is what we'll do. Let's slow that thing all the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. And you get stuff like boom, boom, do, 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 do. You know what I'm saying? Or you get dun, 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 dun. You get those grooves. You know what I'm saying? So essentially what George did was take James Brown's concept of the one. He pulled the tempo back, pulled the groove back a little bit, which gave the musicians room to be as musical as they wanted to be. Where James was more regimented, had everything was really up tempo, and he was really a stickler for play your part. You know what I'm saying? George became do what you do. Let me see what you do. You know what I'm saying? Where James was play that and nothing else. George was, let me see what you got. You know what I'm saying? And George became the producer where, you know, what's the janitor over there? He's humming something. What's the janitor over there humming? Hey, janitor, come here. Come here. Go hum that on the mic. Go hum that part. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll tell everybody to go build around that. You know what I mean? That's what George did. George took James Brown's concept of the one and he just experimented and experimented some more. That's all he did.
Hey, you gave like the real origins. I thought I was just like tiptoeing into something. Like you connected dots that Wikipedia ain't even.
Yeah, well, that's you opened like, the door talking about Wikipedia. I knew where Wikipedia was going, so I was like, let me just break that down for you. That's the origin of the funk. The origin of the funk is James Brown. And you know what? You can't leave out Sly Stone either, because Sly Stone is also integral to what the funk is. That's where the colors come from. That's where the colors come from. The sound comes from James Brown. Sly Stone put the vibe on it. He gave it the swag. So that's what you got from George. George took James Brown's one, Sly Stone's swag, is psychedelic swag, and combined the two and pulled the tempo back.
Tell me this.
There you got P-Funk.
Okay. Other than your father, which most fathers to their son, their father's just like the biggest thing in the world, like the sun, the moon, the stars, the all that. As you were a child, did you understand that your father was a cultural icon?
Not a cultural icon. I understood that he was badass. I understood that. you know, because I was born in 78, which was the prime. That was their prime year. 78, 79 was their prime years. By the time I was 2 or 3, you know, my father was the front man.
Hey man, let me tell you, my favorite online, and if there's anybody out there who's funking and you want to get a nice little shot glass of who Garrett is, look up Parliament Funkadelic. I want to say it might have been in Houston. It was somewhere in Texas. It's a concert that's online, and they come out, and it's very dark though. It's very dark. And your father's voice, like when they come out, your father's voice is the amazing thing about it. Your father was a hybrid of blues, probably blues, gospel, and soul. Like blues, gospel, and soul. He's that lead voice that comes out that gets everything going. And then the rest of the band just kind of comes in behind him, and then George would walk out or come down on the spaceship or whatever. But nah, man, you come from that bloodline, man. Very, very big deal, man.
Yeah, like I said, I can remember, you know, at 2 and 3 years old, you know, they were still playing playing and selling out like auditoriums and shit. So I can, you know, no matter what was going on around me, I wasn't clueless to something special was happening around me at that age, you know what I mean? Because the vibe was unlike anything else, you know what I mean? It was just, everything was happy. Everybody was always smiling and laughing, and, you know, everybody's was always flashing, and everybody's was wearing something that was just sparkling. Everybody was sparkling all the time, and, you know what I mean? And then it would just always just culminate with this big arena, this big old stage. They go out there and play some music, and my father would go out there, stand front and center, and he would go, "Say yeah," and the whole fucking building would go, "Ah!" You know what I'm saying? I'm 2, 3 years old looking at that like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Matter of fact, I was trying to go right then. You know, they used to have to grab me. So my debut was, I think they said I was 2 years old, Madison Square Garden. We used to have that picture at my house too when I was a little kid. That used to be one of the family pictures, was me on stage, and they had me with a little beret on and a little vest, and I'm just out there with my little diaper, and I'm just right out there, and it's Madison Square Garden, and I'm just out there, and they said I would ate it up. They say I can remember clear as day when those points of the show where it would just get you, and you would just like, you know, you just couldn't contain yourself. And then I would just like hightail it to the stage, and somebody would have to grab me. You know what I'm saying? They didn't grab me, I'd be right out there. You know what I'm saying? I knew from then, this is what I want to do. But I knew also, like I said, when they start trying to, here, you know, you want to take guitar, no. What I knew also was I wanted to go about it my own way. That I also knew. So
got 2 questions from the comment section. First one, where is the mothership?
It's in the Smithsonian.
Hey.
It's here. It's actually here in DC where I'm at. It's in the Smithsonian Museum.
Wow.
Come check it out.
Okay. And the second question was, tales of the tour bus true about Flashlight?
Let me see. All those tales from the tour bus stories, 100% true. They all want. As a matter of fact, y'all probably got the PG-13 versions.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Flashlight one, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that person is talking about the Tom Vickers part. Yeah, that's true. It's all true. All of it is true. It's all true.
Okay. And let me see. Let's see. Do any other art forms have an effect on your music?
Oh yeah, man. I'm a versatile ear, bro. Like, it's country music that catches my ear sometimes, and I'm like, whoa, that's kind of, yeah, because I'm a guitarist. I play a few instruments. I play guitar. So guitars grab me. And it's not a style. It's just, what kind of what's your thing, bro? You know what I mean? It's just certain things. I play bass. So bass playing grabs me. I play drums, so drumming grabs me. You know what I mean? I'm the kind of musician that wants to play everything on the damn stage. You know what I mean? So I'm enamored by all of these different instruments and all of these different parts, and it manifests itself into a versatile listening ear. So like there's not too much that I'm not willing to give a listen. So yeah, there's a lot of different genres, man. I like I said, I can do country. I love like some 70s rock, man. I got a lot of rock playlists that I'm putting together that are all 70s, based, all 70s bands and stuff like that. So I'm into that. I'm into soul music, 70s soul. One of my favorite singers on earth is Baby Michael Jackson.
Oh, of course, yeah.
One of my favorite singers on earth. I'm talking about in my like top two. You know what I mean? Yeah, in my top two. Yeah,
That's funny.
I say three because I can't put him over like Stevie. Stevie's like the man, but the little Baby Mike, man, was up there, man. Real singers understand how badass Michael Jackson was of a singer as a little damn kid. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like how you get that good barbecue make you want to slap your mama. It's that kind of thing. If you really know like technique and what you watching and listening to when you listen to young Michael Jackson and the stuff that he knew how to do, is that
Crazy.
Kind of thing. Like, what the hell?
Crazy.
Yeah. Sure enough, alien. Sure enough.
Who would you say your largest musical inspiration is or was?
I guess it's got to be my dad.
Gotta be Pops.
Gotta be him. Yeah, gotta him and my mother. You know what I'm saying? My mother, and my mother and my mother also has written songs for P-Funk. You know what I mean? Is on feature. Her voice is on a lot of that music as well. My mother was an amazing writer. Her and my father, they wrote amazing music together.
Wow.
And she has as much to do with where I have found myself musically as my father. My father sparked it in me, is what he did. And he inspired the hell out of me, watching him just be so badass, you know what I mean? And having him there with me all the time. He was like my Superman, you know what I mean? And my mother is the one who kind of instilled the drive in me, you know what I mean? Because she was the one who would she would drill me. She would put me in the lessons, she was the one who would, all right, now this is how you, with the piano. And she was the one who, kind of pushed me to perform in arts high school when I was out here trying to be like a football player or something, so yeah. So they, both of them, man, I can't say that my parents are not my biggest influences. And George, because George is the one who put all of this shit together. So like all of my entire existence is,
literally, figuratively,
literally,
biblically,
because of what George put together. So
we might have covered this already, but I just want to make sure. What was your earliest memory of George Clinton?
Shit, just seeing him backstage, because George, he's got this aura around him. You know what I mean? He's another show enough alien. You know what I mean? It's like you can tell just when you're around him that like something happens to you, and it's like a little kid when they go to. When you take them to like Disneyland or something for the first time, and the first time that they see the mascot Mickey Mouse come up to them, and they're like, and you don't know how they're going to react. They might get scared, You know what I'm saying? But you can tell they're like, you know, they get that awe, that you know, that awestruck look, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I remember as a kid. Is it would just kind of be, you just kind of be like, you know, you just knew you would, you know, it's like looking at the Mickey Mouse mascot. You know what I mean? It was just that you were just awestruck all the time. You know what I mean? And just, and even to this day, you know, like I'm still sometimes so in awe of George that it's really hard for me to sit down and have like a straight conversation with him sometimes, because I'm still sometimes like, man, what do I say? You know, how do I say it? You know, I just don't want to say the wrong, you know, I don't want to say nothing stupid. You know, I mean, it's George Clinton. Sometimes I still feel like that, kicking it with him sometimes. So, you know.
I'll tell you a quick one. I was Barbarella had invited me out. Oh, this was a good night. This was an LA House of Blues, and the House of Blues was cracking. And Bootsy's son had actually shown up, and I believe Barbarella and Bootsy's son were meeting each other for the first time, and it was kind of dope for me to see the interaction, because they were like, oh yeah, and then I think Barbarella said something like, yeah, I remember when I wasn't there, but I remember when they were out on that tour, and then Bootsy's son was like, yeah, and they had this, it was almost like I saw two people that were related, but they had never met each other, but their conversation was as though they knew they were family. You know what I'm saying?
It's the what do you call it? It's like being down with the elite crew or whatever. It's like, if you know kind of thing. You know what I mean? You know. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. It's that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Quick comment section question. What did Sir Nose and Starchild represent?
I mean, it's the typical comic book hero and you know, arch enemy kind of thing. It's the typical that. But now Starchild is a representation of what the funk was trying to get across message wise, which is, you know, Starchild is a representation of freedom, is what he is. You know what I mean? And Sir Nose, in a way, is a representation of oppression of that freedom. You know what I mean? Let me you know, how can I stomp on your fun? You know what I mean? How can I stomp on your ability to think that you able to just, you know, do what you want to do and have as much fun as you want to have? You know, he's the party pooper is what he is. So
devoid of funk.
Yeah, he represents he's the party pooper, man. He's the guy who comes to the party, and instead of looking at all the pretty girls and dancing with the pretty girls, he comes in there and starts a fight. That's Sir Nose. That's that dude. Fuck this party. He looked at me, you know.
Oh man.
So not Funkadelic, not Parliament. Who are the three dopest musicians that you've seen in person?
Prince.
Okay.
Prince, I've seen in person. Oh man, this is man, I've seen some dope cats, man. Thundercat.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
You guys checked out Thundercat?
Oh yeah.
Thundercat is one of the dopest bass player mugs I have ever seen. Man, Lord have mercy.
Just won a Grammy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. But bruh, his playing. I didn't realize it until I actually saw him live. Actually, it wasn't until I saw his tiny desk, because I've heard some of the stuff he plays, which leads me to assume that, of course, you lay your bass track and then you come back and you lay your vocals. But no, this dude was playing this shit while he was singing, man. I was like, hold up, dude. Really playing that? That happened while you were singing. How do you do that? You know, so he's awesome. He's one. That's two. Damn, man, I've seen so many dope musicians.
Put them up in there, man. Put up in there with Prince.
Yeah, Prince, man.
Prince
man, hold up, have y'all seen that video when he does the "When My Guitar Gently Weeps" with Tom Petty and them on the? Go to YouTube and check out. Just go to YouTube and type in the search bar whenever y'all get a chance, Prince "When My Guitar Gently Weeps," and then just watch it, because most of the video is Tom Petty and George Harrison's son. Who else was in there? A couple of pretty known white guitarists, and Prince up there. You know what I mean? Prince doesn't do no singing. You know, Tom Petty sings the whole song. All the white boys, they're singing, and you know, it's a pretty Beatles song, and you know, they're doing it. Prince is kind of like off in the distance until the last run, because as you sing on this particular song, you sing the verse, it kind of ends with a guitar kind of thing, right? So Prince didn't do any singing. They sang, and then it was his turn to play. First and foremost, he had on this badass red suit and fucking red like derby hat, man. So he came out there on his fucking ultimate cool. The man came out there and he played so dope that he just commits to take a dump on anybody who was standing on the stage, thought that they was playing the guitar before that, bro. I mean, he played circles around them. He took dumps all over them. There was a point where he went to the stage and he was playing, but then he just kind of fell off the front of the stage, and there was somebody there to just like kind of push him back up there. You know what I'm saying? All while he was playing his solo, he was showing off, he was doing his thing. He killed the solo, and then he took his guitar and threw it up in the air and walked off. And the guitar never came down. And the guitar never came down.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Who your top 3 vocal inspirations?
Oh man, Garrett Shider, Michael Jackson, and then I'm gonna say, not because he's a super vocalist or because he's like the greatest vocalist or anything, but I'm gonna say, I'm just for this conversation and because of what I do and why he inspires me, I'm gonna say Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Name that should have been said earlier.
Yeah, well, he's not a dope singer for real. He's not a dope singer, you know what I mean? He's got a thing, is what he had. He had a vibe that you just gonna get with, you know what I'm saying? He had a vibe. And it's so dope that I try to channel it myself sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because I think it's so bad. I think Jimi Hendrix was so bad, man. I think he was so bad. He was so bad. So bad.
Yeah, you have a Mel Casson who's jumped in here and said Prince did his thing with the guitar, co-signing your every.
Anyone who's seen the video is gonna co-sign it. Y'all are gonna understand it if you go see the video, man. I'm trying to tell you, you're gonna walk away from it like. The best part about it, George Harrison's son was up there playing with him, right? He's doing the thing, all while Prince is playing his thing and going through his thing. It got to a point where you could see George Harrison, and George Harrison was just, his eyes, he was just looking at him. His eyes were this big, and he just had this shit-eating smile on his face, like, you know, like we said, the little kid, when they see Mickey Mouse for the first time at Disney, he had that look on his face like, oh my God. You know what I mean? He was just, Prince was killing, man. It's one of the classic YouTube videos, man. It's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Your top 3 albums.
Top 3 albums, any genre?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to throw a funkadelic one in there, of course. So One Nation Under a Groove, one. Um, two for me, Notorious B.I.G.
Mm.
Ready to Die.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because that's the one that really pulled me back into my rap thing. You know what I'm saying? Like after that album came out, I like all of a sudden became a rapper. I like said fuck my instruments for a minute, and I like became a rapper. And I was a rapper for a long time. All started from me hearing Big the first time, and that fucking album, man. That album was ridiculous, because I'm a child of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? I'm a child of the 90s. So that music is my music. You see what I'm saying? So to that effect, I'm going to also say for me, and for no particular reason, these are not like the best albums, and I could probably find three better, but for me,
I say MC Hammer.
Nope. Nope. My favorite MC of all time, Redman, Muddy Waters.
Oh my gosh. Great pick. What did you yo, go on.
Dude. The first time I heard that one. Look, I wasn't really up on Redman until Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters is really the first Redman album that I heard. Man, I heard that album and he became my ultimate favorite MC. He's my favorite. He's hands down. He's my favorite.
And you know what? He's a good dude too, man. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times, and he's just a real good dude. And
I imagine I've never met him before, man. I sure would love to though.
I want to say I got this thing of like, I have no problem before I start the podcast or whatever. I just had no problem asking people just stuff. If I felt that I could ask, I would. And we did this festival in, I want to say it was in Scandinavia somewhere, and we had all come back to the hotel on shuttles, and Brown from the group and myself, I want to say we found ourselves like in this, it was a bar, but it was the hotel bar, but it wasn't like a bar where like everybody's drinking. It was like they were serving food and stuff like that. It was like, it wasn't like a, cowboy bang, bang, shoot 'em up, bar like that or whatever. So I said, man, you look like you've changed. I was like, what's going on? And he's like, man, I stopped eating meat, man, and I just exercise as much as I can. Because I want to say he was doing pull-ups before the show, because it was red meth. He was doing pull-ups. And he just started going into this whole thing about health and how you eat and fitness. And like, I was vegetarian from like probably early 90s, late 80s, up to about 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Until I ate some pepperoni and it was a wrap. That all evil pepperoni. But I just recall having this conversation with him, and it was kind of, I kind of applauded him, because we were all older than just young teenagers or right after high school. You hear KRS-One and he's talking about edutainment.
Right.
Anybody watching, go back and listen to KRS-One edutainment. You know what I'm saying? We need more of that. Well, it was a trip, because it was like, okay, Redman, smoked a gang of blunts. You know what I'm saying? He used to drink the 40s and all that kind of stuff. But physically, he had transformed himself into somebody different. And it was just amazing to see. Not only was he a dope musician and like music was his thing, but it's kind of like all the great musicians, I guess, kind of like when you separate the art from the person, and then the person has done their thing well enough with the art that they can take the time to pay attention to their body and their mind and their, and the things that they put into their, their soul or whatever. But that was just an amazing thing. But since you mentioned Redman, I just thought I had to give him his props too, because
yeah, man. Shout out to the Funk Doc, man. That's my dude right there.
I ran into him at Governor's Ball 2019. I tried to get him on the show. He won't reply back to my text messages anymore. We had to go back and forth. Like he was cool. I was telling Smoosh, I was like, I think I got him. Then nothing. But
I don't got him.
I don't have nothing bad to say about Redman. We did a Lab Cabin anniversary remix that we put out a year ago. I think about a year ago, a year back than that November. And I hit him and asked him for a drop, and I'll say that I had my drop back in 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like literally. So it's like I look at it like, you know what?
See, it's all who you are. It's all.
I won't say that. I'll just say this. Everybody.
I was just playing. I was just teasing.
But everybody's not your homeboy. But we as people think like, oh, because we shared a moment or we were cool with somebody, that they owe it to us to do what our homeboy would do. But if they're not your homeboy, they're not your homeboy, man. They could just be somebody like I remember we did the Pharcyde did this Dilla tribute with the Roots at this venue in Los Angeles. And I remember the guitar player Kirk, he was chilling because we ended up we shared dressing rooms for whatever reason, because it was kind of like, or somehow he ended up in our dressing room because there wasn't that many dressing rooms in the venue or whatever. And so Kurt, he was kicking it, just real cool dude, man. Just like, man, he was just like a really cool dude. And then there were some people that were back there with us, and I can't remember who it was. There was nobody in the Pharcyde, but it was just somebody that just happened to be backstage. And they kept asking him questions, and I was just saying to myself, man, just let the man, he ain't even gone on stage yet. And then he just vocalized it and was like, he said something to the effect of like, man, I just like to kick it, man. I just cool, like basically saying he didn't want to go into whatever the conversation was or whatever. But me just being around celebrities and whatnot, they're people too, man. So you can catch them on a good day, you can catch them on a bad day. I share a story where I was with Brown, and Brown was out with Gorillaz, and they had did Coachella, and I mean, it was one of the moments that just stand out in my life. Like Jay-Z and Beyonce were on the side of the stage. It was like that, like to check the Gorillaz. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So Flea was doing this album with Damon. The Good, the Bad. No. I think it was the Good, the Bad, and the Queen. I think it was a good. No. It wasn't the Good, the Bad, and the Queen. That was with Paul Simonon. But anyway, Flea and Damon had done this album together. It was like kind of an experimental Afrobeat type of album or whatever. And they hadn't been able to see each other that much, but they were kind of recording back and forth over the seas or whatever. So, man, I'm a huge Chili Pepper fan. I mean, oh man, I'm a huge Chili Pepper fan. Yeah, and I can really keep my cool most of the time. But when I saw Flea, I lost it. And this had to be about 2006, 2005, 2006. There was no Instagram. There was definitely Facebook. And so I was like, yo, man, can I get a picture real quick? Can I get a picture? And Flea was like, man, I just want to see my homeboy, man. My homeboy's back there. I just want to see my homeboy. And I was like, man, you can't take one. I'm like, you can't take one picture. He's like, nah, man, I just want to see my friend, man. I want to see. But he wasn't being mean. He literally was just excited and wanted to get back and see his homeboy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because he's a sweetheart, man.
Nah,
I know he wasn't being. That's Unc right there, man. But I've seen him in action like that. And what I was about to say is, if he was, before you said it, if he was really wanting to see whoever it was, he probably was just as excited as it is, you know, as you said
I
he
was to
was.
see him. No, as
Yeah.
I was to see him.
Yeah,
So
because he's got some musicians that he's like really like I check him out on social media and he's still kind of like, man, it's still some cats, man, that he's just like, man, oh my god, you know what I mean? So I can see
it's
that.
amazing because it really made me feel a certain type of a way. Like after it, like it really didn't hit me that night because I was just I was like, man, we out in Palm Springs, whatever. So then I'm real cool with Maceo, so I was talking to Maceo, and so something just happened, and I said, you know what? I said, yo, Maceo, I was like, I don't want to seem like maybe I took it the wrong way or I'm funny. But I was like, man, I just wanted a picture with Flea. And this was like months afterwards, like, because we were doing several shows with the Gorillas. So we were seeing each other maybe a couple times a month. And I was like, man, we were at Coachella and, I tried to get a picture with Flea or whatever. And then he's like, Smooch, that's the nickname, Smooch. He's like, nah, man. He's like, dude, Flea's the coolest dude in the world, man. It wasn't nothing personal about it, man. He was like, man, he just wanted to see his homeboy, man.
Yeah. He's a sweetheart, man. He is. I was about to say, he just really must have wanted to see his homie.
Yeah, I get it. So what inspired Lucky Star?
Essentially, I have been I started recently like doing like online guitar lessons. And so one of these lessons that I was doing, within some of my lessons, sometimes I do like little, I guess I give little examples of what it is I'm trying to show. So I might play a loop and then just kind of like noodle around a little bit, just kind of like show an example, right? And I was given a lesson, and one of the loops and one of the noodles that I was coming up with, I remember saying as I was doing it, like, that's kind of dope. So I kept the loop. I didn't turn the pedal off, because if I would have turned the pedal off, I would have lost the loop. I kept the loop. Next day, I sat in the studio. I listened to the loop. I played the loop again, and then I just commenced to noodle around it, right? And I ended up kind of writing something that I was kind of into, and I was kind of feeling it. So I went in on it a lot. I even consulted OG Funkadelic Billy Bass Nelson on this one. And yeah, and he gave me a couple of critiques and a couple of suggestions, and I went back in on it. And by the time I finished it, I had this song, right? So it's only a guitar track. It's a track of me playing some rhythm, and it's me playing lead against that. And that's the entire song. There's no drums, there's no keyboards, there's no bass. You know what I mean? So the vibe of it and just what it was, I looked at it as an homage to my own Lucky Star. You know what I mean? Because as I was doing it, I think about often how proud my father probably would be of me to, not just the fact that I've like chosen to kind of carry on his legacy or try to carry on his legacy the way I am, but if he were here to just see like some of the improvements that I've had to make in order to get it to where I am. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten so much better as an artist, so much better than I was when he was here. You know what I mean? So I sat back and I listened to what I was doing, like especially as a guitarist. I've come so much further as a guitarist in the 10 years since I've really been, playing it and trying to do my own thing with it. And I just felt this sense of pride about that. And just, I was like, wow, man, if he was here, he would really be proud about this. I was like, well, essentially I looked at it as, you know what, I'm gonna send this one up to him. So that's why I called that one Lucky Star, because he's essentially my lucky star.
And for those who don't know, Garrett's pops was the one, he'd have a star over his eye with the beret.
He was the star child.
In the diaper, you know what I'm saying? and he'd be out there doing this thing, man. Oh man.
Mhm.
Man.
Yeah.
We got another question from the comment section. When did Amp Fiddler come into the group?
Amp came into the group around the mid 80s. The first thing that I can remember Amp doing was Do Fries Go With That Shape?
Hey,
yeah, so that was like 86. So I would say somewhere around then is when he got to the fold. Yeah, shout out to Uncle Amp.
Also, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Shit. I used to get all kinds of advice. My father used to tell me stuff like, "Don't take wooden nickels, boy," and stuff like that. You know what? Best piece of advice he ever gave me, though, he used to tell me, "Just stick to your guns." You know what I mean? Which was meant a lot coming from him because, again, he tried to nurture me and tried to set me on a path to kind of following his footsteps. And I was reluctant and he was respectful of that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, you understood that he meant what he was saying when he said something like that to you. He really meant that. He meant, stick to what you know or stick to what you believe in. I really take that to heart, and I still most definitely live by that, maybe even sometimes to my own detriment, or to the dismay of others who, might think that I might be a little arrogant or might be a little jerkish because I'm a little stubborn about kind of moving off what I believe. So
educate us a little bit about the Huff Puff Happy Hour.
Okay, so the Huff and Puff Happy Hour is a new podcast that I just launched last Thursday. It will be a live stream every Thursday at 7 p.m. This is a spinoff.
Eastern?
Yeah, Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, which would be 4 p.m. for you on the West Coast. This is a stoner cast, is essentially all it is. This is a spinoff of my Friday podcast, which is the Stuffs and Things podcast. So from the Friday podcast, we present to you the Thursday podcast, which is a more fun kind of thing. And we talk about stoner movies. We talk about munchies. We talk about stoner things. I give out my 420 Hall of Famer of the week every week. And I also do a bunch of giveaways because my shows are sponsored by Raw, Authentic Papers. So, and if you know anything about Raw, or if you've ever visited their website, they do a lot of other things besides make papers. They make all kinds of cool gadgets and, stoner gadgets. And, the guy there, he's like MacGyver, man. He invents all kinds of cool things, right? So essentially, I do Raw giveaways on my show. You never know what kind of Raw goodies you might get from my show. The kicker is, though, you have to know my song lyrics. So if you want to get some Raw prizes for when you're watching the Huff and Stuff Happy Hour, you got to know the lyrics. So y'all better go stream some of my music before you come to the show. It might win you something.
That's smart. I need to try something like that. Memorize my jokes and go watch the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you miss most about the pre-pandemic times?
Doing shows, man. I haven't done a show in a year. That's an easy one.
Where were you when the Rona jumped off?
I was I guess I was, you mean like when they shut us down?
Yeah, okay, I can remember when I saw that it was getting real, which was like on a Wednesday, and I'll say we were pretty much shut down by that Saturday. They kind of tried to give it to us in layers so as to not just like martial law, shut down, curfew or whatever. But like Wednesday is when I kind of knew something was gonna happen, and then like by Saturday it had come.
Yeah.
Okay, well, because what I was gonna say was, essentially, 2020 was looking like it was getting ready to be a wonderful year. I started off, like I had done NAMM in 2020 in January 2020. So, it was that. We had shows early in the year. We had just rehearsed a new show with P-Funk. We were actually opening up the show. I was performing my own song on P-Funk's stage. You know what I'm saying? I was performing my own song, man. It was getting ready to be a wonderful year. We toured February into March. So all while that was going on, January NAMM, you start hearing a little buzz. Something about this corona, and it's like a case here, it's like one case. That was NAMM. By February, it was like we got about 20, 30 cases. And, then I was on my tour. It's about a week tour that lasted into, I think the last show was March 6th. So I got home March 7th. I think a week after that.
Man, the Pharcyde had a show the day that the governor shut California down, and it was so crazy because so one of the guys had already started heading down to San Diego for the show, and then another one of the guys hadn't left yet, and my office is kind of like, I was the closest geographically to San Diego where the office was. So one of the guys called me and said, man, I think you should probably call the booking agent. It was a Live Nation cat. He's like, I think you should call him and see if everything is good. And I'm like kind of arguing with the guy who's calling me. I'm like, man, I just talked to homeboy. He's hyped. He's like, man, let's get it popping. Whoa. So then I said, you know what? Let me just call this Live Nation cat back and just ask him. But I had just talked to him in the morning at like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. He's hyped. He's like, oh man, woo. So I call homeboy back and he's like, I'm gonna call you back in 40 minutes. That 40 minutes turned to 2 o'clock. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to call him back, man. From his enthusiasm to be on 10. And then he was like, well, Greg, if it was up to me, we do the show. But the governor just shut California down and the club doesn't want the liability and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, it has really gotten real, man.
Yeah, man. Like once you kind of like realize that the streets were empty, and it was like no activity. Like you just didn't hear just normal activity happening. It was just like eerie silence. It was like
silence of the cars, no cars rolling by.
Yeah, it was like, yo, this is like real Armageddon kind of shit here, man. This is like serious. I mean, so not to be a shameless promoter or anything, I put out an album last year called Pandemic.
Good for you.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the first things that I did, once I realized that my year of tour dates were out the window. It was like, what to do now? I think that was probably the first thing that I did was start finishing up that record. And yeah, and if you listen to the title track, Pandemic, it tells the entire story. That song was one of the first things that I wrote once they shut us down. So the vibe of it and lyrically, all of it is set right there, whatever you were feeling when they first said shut down, and it started to set in like, wait a minute, there's no basketball, there's no football, there's no the only thing there is to do is just sit here and watch the news and sit here and wait for them to say that it's over. Yeah. This song Pandemic is all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you see social progression going? Social progression going in the next 2 years?
Oh, here we go here. In the next 2 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because right now we're living in a world Well, we're living in a country, I should say, because this ain't the whole world ain't as silly as us right now. But right now, we in a place where it's like,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
you know, which way do you go? That way. That's what we doing right now. You know what I mean? Or, you know, which way is up? Which way is down? We doing that right now. So I don't know in 2 years, because to be 100% honest, I don't know what's going on. I think something is in the water. Like a lot of us have drank something that has like messed with our usual moral compass, you know, our usual sense of empathy. You know, like we lack empathy these days. Nobody cares about what's going to happen to themselves right now. You know, like I encounter people who um I encounter people right now, you know, vaccine deniers, anti-maskers, you know, people like that who wear a seatbelt when they get in the car because they don't want to get a ticket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got that. You know, like I'm like really confused right now as to where people's heads are at. You know what I mean? And I'm like really at a point to where like sometimes I talk to people and you think you're making perfect logical sense. And yeah, you know, that I don't know what happens in 2 years, bruh. I have no idea. I used to think we were gonna be okay, but I don't know, man. I'm just keep on making this music.
Good
And
for you, man.
I'm gonna just try to do my part and hope that that music helps. You know what I mean? Music heals.
Well, no, man. I wanna really thank you for coming on to the show, man. It was a very big deal for me, man.
Oh, that was kind of quick. I
To pick your
felt like we was
mind.
just getting into it.
Oh man, we gonna get in one more again. Don't even trip. Don't
That's
even
what's up.
trip.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me, man. Can I tell
Oh,
your viewers one more time where to see my shows and get my music and all of that?
and your social media and all that.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, I'm about to run it down. So depending on where you want to go, most of my social media you can find me at Starchild Jr. The only exception I think is Twitter, where you'll have to say StarKid78. And my podcast, you can view them at YouTube, Starchild Jr., capital S, Twitch TV, Starchild Jr. _ P Funk, or my Facebook page, Garrett Shider, Starchild Jr. P Funk. Any of that, you'll find me on Facebook. Um, I have a website, thefunkstar.com. You can buy my music. You can book lessons with me. You can check my bio. You can see some of my past podcast interviews if you want at thefunkstar.com. And you can stream any of my 3 albums or check out my coming single anywhere that you stream your music. Anywhere you can find me there. I will be there. So y'all go check me out, please, man, and share, comment, like, do all that good stuff. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me, man.
Absolutely.
We got you. And you, Jeremy, anything you want to shout out?
Man, I'm working on this comedy album. That's it. Everything else, Jeremy at Jeremy Comedy on IG, Jeremy Scipio, SCIPPIO .com, everything, whatever. But yeah, no, I'm checking this pandemic song out, bro. I'm just letting you know, I'm on you. I'm gonna go through your stuff, bro.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. I hope y'all like that, man. And if so, spread the word for the people. I need some spins. Good gracious. You know, I got a random inbox from some guy who said, just randomly hit me up, was like, can I get the link to your Spotify? Which was kind of strange to me. And I was like, you can find me on Spotify, right? But I was like, okay, I ain't think nothing of it. I sent him a link. He replies, he was like, because I love your music, man, but it just makes me sad to see that how many views you got. You it's like, yeah, I agree with you, bro. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, like thank you, you know what I mean? But backhanded compliment. Yeah. I see y'all 7 p.m. the Huff and Puff podcast on Thursdays. Y'all come check me out, man.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And then I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow about that other conversation we were talking about, and we'll see if we can get popping.
Please, because that's the only thing that my website is gonna be lacking. There's a little merch up there, but the merch game we need a boost, man. So we're gonna work that out.
No, all good. Well, no, man, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jeremy. This has been Splendid Radio on Pharcyde TV. Peace.